there's one habit that I'm grateful for starting, when I was about 15 or 16, I started doing illustrated journaling. A little bit different than just regular journaling, when you're drawing and kind of writing at the same time. So many beneficial things came from starting that activity that I want to share with you, that habit and how it can change your life. Now you might be thinking, I don't have time to do doodling and journaling and all these little sketches in the margins. But if you come at this the right way, I can guarantee it's going to give you some benefits and activities for your brain, and just how to come at something a little bit differently. So in this video, we're going to share why journaling is one of the best ways to change your life, how to journal, and the 4 tiers of illustrated journaling. Along the way, I'm going to share with you how to notice the little moments that are worth writing about in your journal, how to come up with prompts, and what a great illustrated journal looks like. So I believe there are like 2 main reasons why illustrated journaling is a great thing to do. One of the reasons is you can look back at kind of what you did that day and kind of look at a documentation of what your life was like at that time. Another reason to journal is that you get to kind of process and think about things in a deeper way. You get to explore like what you're really feeling, what you're really thinking about, and then the drawings take on a life of their own too. Sometimes a drawing can say a lot more about how you're feeling and what you were thinking about than the actual words. We went to a trunk or treat, since it's that time of year, it's October, and it's a perfect opportunity to think through, like, how would I journal about this? What would I decide to write about? Like, what moment? We took a hayride where the tractor was this old International tractor, and the girls were surprised that they were going to get onto the hayride. I'd like to pull that apart and make that into a journal entry of its own, like that moment when we decided to ride the hayride, and then what the hayride was like, and the other people that were on it, and the little things that were happening. I had to think about it a little bit more to decide what the specific things are that were made it interesting, but that piece of it was what I started to think about as far as the interesting little moment. One of the most important things about journaling and illustrating your journals is picking up those little small moments that are really special or important or have significant meaning. So this journal is one that I just started recently, and I really like this page in particular. This is Julia Cameron's book. It's called The Artist's Way. It basically is all about journaling and what the roadblocks are you're going to run into, like perfectionism and being too worried about starting, being too worried about stopping, all these different just aspects. And there's tons of prompts. So Julia Cameron was the one, along with a couple other people, who came up with the morning pages. So like about 750 words each morning. Just do your best to get that going every single day. And that's like the first step. Doing those morning pages, it seems to open up your mind and let yourself just be free to kind of get your day going after that. That's the theory behind that. So I have 2 books that are my favorite example books for the quintessential version of an illustrated journal. So the first one's by Dan Eldon, who was a journalist that worked on multiple continents. And he kept this journal that just kept getting more and more intense. And he added more and more to it. It's collage, it's writings, it's all these different pieces of his life, and just one of my favorite books of all time. So Dan Eldon, the name of this book is The Journey is the Destination. My other favorite example book of just how to document and then make something out of it is the Jazz Loft Project. So the Jazz Loft Project is photographs and tapes of Eugene Smith from 821 6th Avenue, 1957 to 1965. And there are all these famous musicians. This is more of a book that was created out of someone documenting something and just leaving everything behind. It's much cleaner, it's much more sophisticated. But the raw tapes and the footage and the recordings, he just collected everything. You know, they have recordings of Thelonious Monk, they have recordings of all these different musicians. I'm trying to look and see who. Thelonious Monk and Hal Overton rehearsed the music for Monk's legendary big band concerts at Town Hall in 1959, at the Lincoln Center in 1963, Carnegie Hall 1964. So he's an amazing photographer, but the fact that he documented this into this body of work is something that I'm just glad that I found out about it. Earliest journals were just these type of journals, just thoughts and things. I used to like to stuff like artwork and just copies of things that I thought were important. And back in like the 90s and stuff, I would keep phone numbers, important notes, names, things like that. But the first journals were just these, really like a date and an address in the front. And then people started to give me journals, drawings, thoughts. The drawings are pretty rough. Thoughts with little sketches. We'll call it thoughts with little sketches. Mostly about the writing at this point. But I also kept like plastic bags with scraps and things that I might want to do more with. Photographs, Polaroids. I just would keep the ones I liked or just stick them all in a bag to keep. So this would be called a bag journal. It's not scrapbooking, it's not something organized, but it's a way to keep your thoughts together without putting it in the garbage can. Favorite illustrated journal of all time is this one, because it started out just as this way to collect things, but it also was something like a way to keep track of like what was going on. We had just had our first child, and so we were kind of like experiencing the world in a whole new way. But I took, like this page has Polaroids that are like ripped apart and they still smell like chemicals. A lot of like collage and printmaking, because I was taking a lot of printmaking at the time. But it's my favorite journal because it's got a little bit of everything. It's got like history, it's got ideas, ticket stubs from the State Theater in Detroit, all different types of things, and I just love it. So I kept on making journals and illustrating them and drawing on them and decorating them and sketching in them. And eventually too, I had this time where I made boxes. So I can't remember what artist I was modeling off of this of, but sometimes when you had a group of work that went together, like this is a set of paintings that all go together, similar style. And I just wanted to keep them all organized and separated and away from the craziness of the other pieces of art. So these boxes are kind of important to me now. This is one of my favorites from this. Kind of goes with my glasses. So I think that the idea is to keep track of what you've been doing in your life. Like, what is it that you spend your time doing? And these photographs and these journals and these writings are super important to just telling a story about who you are and like what it is you're doing here. I don't think you need to do this, but I think you'll get something out of it if you try it. So what? So why didn't Leonardo and Michelangelo like one another? Their styles were similar enough that they were competing against each other. Leonardo once said that Michelangelo's human figures look like bags of walnuts, where Michelangelo once made fun of Leonardo because he never finished anything. But when we look back at their work, the Mona Lisa, the Statue of David, you can see how many similarities there are. One was a sculptor, one a painter, a drawer, a notebook maker. When we look at what they left behind, it's obvious they were both masters, but because they lived during the same time period, they'll always be known as rivals. Me personally, I think I'm a Leonardo fan. And then when I look at the Statue of David, I'm not so sure.